For decades, the message was crystal clear. Fat is the enemy. It was a really simple story, and it kicked off this massive change in how we all eat. But what if that whole story was wrong? Today, we're going to unravel the real story of the war on fat and expose the hidden culprit that secretly took its place.
I know, it's a pretty bold question to ask. But honestly, a lot of evidence suggests that in our big rush to get healthy by cutting out fat, we might have accidentally created a whole bunch of new problems. So let's find out how that happened.
Okay, so our story really starts with the low-fat craze. You remember it, right? It was everywhere in the late 20th century. And on the surface, it seemed to make perfect sense. Eat less fat, you'll be less fat. Simple. But, well, our bodies are just a little more complicated than that, and it turns out that advice missed a huge piece of our biological puzzle.
Okay, let me introduce you to a key player here. It's a hormone called CCK, which is short for cholecystokinin. Now, when you eat foods that have fat in them, your body releases this hormone, and its main job is to send a signal up to your brain that basically says, hey, we're full, you can stop eating now. But what's really interesting is that research is showing it also helps with things like our memory.
So here's the catch. When everybody started eating low-fat everything, we pretty much cut off the trigger for that CCK hormone. So without that I'm full signal reaching our brains, what happens? We end up feeling hungry all the time, never really satisfied, even if we've actually eaten plenty of food.
And this, right here, sets up the central mystery of our modern diet. I mean, think about it. When food companies took all the fat out of their products, they had to put something back in to make them taste good. So what was it?
Well, the answer wasn't just one thing. It was this whole combination of stuff that completely changed our food. Basically, when fat went out the door, this army of sugars and industrial ingredients came marching right in.
Yep, sugar, in all its different forms, became the #1 replacement to add flavor back into all those low-fat products. And this whole shift led to the rise of what scientists now call ultra-processed foods, or UPFs. Now, it's really important to get this straight. Not all processed food is bad for you. You know, things like canned vegetables or pasteurized milk. That's processed. But UPFs, they're in a completely different league. Think of them as industrial formulas made with ingredients you would never find in your own kitchen, all engineered to be so tasty you just can't stop eating them.
And just how common are they? Get ready for this. A staggering 73% of the entire U.S. food supply is made up of these ultra-processed foods. They are, quite literally, everywhere.
And this shift, you can bet it had a direct impact on our sugar intake. The average American adult now consumes around 60 pounds of added sugar every single year. And let's be clear, that's not the natural sugar you find in an apple. That's sugar that's been added in a factory. And manufacturers have gotten really good at hiding it. Sugar has all these different names, right? High fructose corn syrup, dextrose, cane juice, maltodextrin. The list is huge, and it's designed to make it really hard for you to see just how much sugar is packed into a product.
So we've basically been running this giant, decades-long experiment on our diet. What has the result been? Well, the scientific evidence on this paints a very clear and pretty concerning picture.
Turns out diets packed with these foods are linked to this whole cascade of health problems. We're talking about everything from oral diseases like inflammation in our gums all the way to obesity, which, by the way, has doubled since 1990. And that's not to mention a whole host of other conditions like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even fatty liver disease. The common thread connecting almost all of them? Chronic inflammation.
You can really see the chain reaction here. A diet like this can spark inflammation that starts in the mouth, but it definitely doesn't stay there. It can spread through the body kind of like a low-grade fire, contributing to all those diseases we just mentioned.
The stakes here really couldn't be higher. This is not a small problem. We're talking about more than 1 million adults in the U.S. dying from diet-related diseases every single year. It is a massive public health crisis hiding in our grocery aisles.
Okay, so that's the problem. But knowledge is power, right? The good news is we have better tools now than ever before to see past all the marketing and really understand what we're eating. So let's open up our toolkit.
You've probably noticed that nutrition labels have gotten a facelift. They're bolder and a little easier to read, for sure. But the most important change is one tiny but incredibly powerful addition. And there it is. For the first time ever, companies have to tell you the difference between the sugar that's naturally in a food, like from milk, and the sugars that they add during processing. This one little line is an absolute game changer for all of us.
And this new label helps us finally spot the sugar hiding in all those supposedly healthy foods. You'd be shocked. Things like salad dressings, flavored yogurts, granola bars, even pasta sauces and bread, they can be absolutely loaded with added sugar, all to make the low-fat versions taste better.
So, with all this new information, how do we actually move forward? Well, there's a clear, actionable plan to start taking back control over what's on our plates.
Researchers at Yale laid out 4 pretty simple steps. First, just try to cook more of your own meals at home. Second, switch out sugary drinks and sodas for water. Third, don't be afraid of frozen or canned produce. Just make sure you check the label for any added salt or sugar. And finally, if you are going to buy a processed food, use that new label to pick the option with less sodium, fat, and sugar.
And just to bring our whole story full circle, let's add 2 more big ones. First, bring back those healthy fats. Remember our friend CCK? Eating things like nuts, seeds, olive oil, and avocado helps trigger that hormone that makes you feel full and satisfied. And second, just add a bit more movement to your day. It doesn't have to be some intense workout. Even simple activity is incredibly protective for your brain.
So, what this all means is that you now have the backstory and you have the toolkit. You know how to decode the labels, and you understand the science behind it. You're fully equipped to make informed choices that are right for you and for your health.
It's a pretty powerful shift in perspective, isn't it? So I'll just leave you with this question. Armed with all this new knowledge, when you go to your kitchen, what's the very first label you're going to check? The answer just might surprise you.